Hello, welcome to today's session. My name is Elizabeth, and I'll be continuing with the AWS networking workshop. I think this is part 6. When I started this particular series on AWS networking, I didn't expect it to be like so many parts, but it's good that we get to explore them in detail. So today we'll be looking at this advanced topics section. Here we can see the sections that we've gone through. We are done with foundational topics, and we just have these 2 parts on the advanced topics. I don't know if we'll be able to finish both sides today, but at least we should try to wrap up with AWS Gateway Load Balancer, and then we keep the Transit Gateway multicast. But I mean, let's go for it, hoping to get everything done. And this in the background is just my leftover session from last week. Okay, let's get started. Next, I will just close this, take it to the sign-in page. So we will be going to the dedicated workshop studio for the AWS Gateway Load Balancer. Definitely, I don't think we'll be done with everything because I see that there are different labs. There are different labs to it. I guess it's really complicated, but let's go as far as we can. I really want us to try to touch it, especially seeing as there's the implementation of like third-party firewalls, and like these are important parts of networking in AWS. Okay, I'm just going to make this bigger so that we can see it clearer. Yeah, I think this is much better. Okay, back to the beginning, introduction. I think there's going to be some foundation related like topics that may be discussed. I wouldn't go deep into them because we're going to be setting up some infrastructure and all that. This session is focused on AWS Gateway Load Balancer. So any of the prerequisites or things before it, I won't be going deep into it, but you can refer to some other sessions that we've had that may have more information on them. So this is about getting used to the AWS console. We're going to skip that because we already touched that before. You can check the very first session in the I think the second one in the AWS tutorials playlist. We created an account and got used to the AWS environment. The gateway load balancer. Okay. As much as I would want to share only in my own words, I think it's important for us to like try and pick the main point from every paragraph that we have here, and then we talk on it before we go on. So there are different kind of load balancers in AWS. We have worked with the application load balancer when we were deploying some resources before this networking section. The different load balancers have the way they are implemented. One, they have the different resources they can be combined with, and they have like different levels at which they terminate like your network traffic and all that. I mean, terminating SSL. I mean, not just terminating the network traffic, but every one of them has their differences. I don't know if it's good for us to go straight into AWS Gateway Load Balancer without having taken a session to just discuss load balancers and all that. But I think it's good that we address them as we touch them. So AWS Gateway Load Balancer is one of the load balancers, of course, in AWS environment, and particularly it's popular because it's is combined with like third-party virtual appliances. So instead of just getting stuff from AWS Marketplace and being stuck with it, like the way, like you can manage your traffic basically, being able to balance your traffic and use them along with these um, services or virtual appliances. That's how they usually refer to, that you get from AWS Marketplace from third party vendors. So keep that in mind. And yes, we continue. So, when I said that the load balancers, they have different layers, like where they work on or at which level they terminate your SSL, for instance, comparing like the network load balancer and the application load balancer. It's important to know these differences, especially if you're going to be taking an AWS exam, for instance. You should know on which level it operates. Yeah, like the application load balancer is level 7, the network load balancer is level 4. I'm referring to the OSI model. Okay, I don't want this to get too. Let me see. I think a diagram would suffice. Let me try looking up one OSI model. There are 7 layers. I don't think it's not going to be very visible. It's not going to be very visible. But when we refer to layers in this session, it's usually about the layers of the OSI model. So when you are working with networking and all that, it's important to know on which level this is operating, for instance. Like, it's not only for networking. This OSI model applies to your entire infrastructure, your entire system or whatever. Every single thing operates on a particular layer. Most of the things that you get to use or utilize is like on the application layer, for instance. And then the hardware, servers and all that is on the physical layer, like level 1 kind of layer. But you can take some time, look into the OSI model and explore it to understand more when we're talking on some networking things. I don't think we'll be discussing a lot of networking right now, but it's good to know what layer something is operating on, because it also tells you what data you have access to, how it operates, and what you're meant to do on that layer. Okay, back to where we were. I'm just going to close this quickly. I don't want to digress. So here we are told that this gateway load balancer, it provides both level 3 and level 4. If I say level or layer, they mean the same. I interchange it, like, because what your teacher teaches you, what you learn online, everything, you add it together and make one endpoint. So yes, layer 3 gateway, layer 4 load balancing capabilities. That's what you get with gateway load balancer. And I'm just going to pick up the most important things here. AWS is writing a lot of really cool things about the load balancer so that, you get hyped up. It works, as they said, it says it does. But in essence, you need to be able to use it well. That's what I tell people. Your infrastructure won't work unless you do. I think that was part of the talk I gave last week. Oh yeah, I gave a talk in Switzerland last week at AWS Community Day Switzerland on right sizing and fine-tuning your AWS resources. But you need to be able to rough this thing well, like connect it properly, make the right choices, decisions, when you're ticking checkboxes and all that, for you to get the results that AWS tells you, because they always tell you the best case, the best, like what it is capable of doing, not what it does by default. Okay, so here, the gateway load balancer, it uses a VPC endpoint to connect like sources and destinations for your network traffic. And this endpoint is gateway load balancer endpoint. Remember, I have said VPC endpoints in a different session. If you haven't joined before, you don't need to go all the way back to just know what VPC endpoints are. You can just Google it and look it up. VPC endpoints, they provide like internal, let's say, connections, like ways for your resources to communicate with AWS resources or through AWS resources, like within your environment, instead of going through the public internet. Now, we mentioned VPC endpoint here because, there's a lot of talk on, third party services, trying to use gateway load balancer to manage this and all that. We're using VPC endpoint. You're not going through the public internet. That's good. And next paragraph was the important thing that we see here. It's talking about still AWS selling more things on. I mean, when I say it like this, it sounds as if I'm like against AWS. I'm not. I enjoy using AWS resources or services because that's what I do most of my days. Like, I'm an AWS cloud consultant, yeah. But honestly, it sounds good, but you need to do your stuff. There's one information here that is important, saying that you send traffic to your gateway load balancer when you update your VPC route tables. You have to make the configuration updates, like impute new routes or change it to direct traffic to your gateway load balancer. We're going to go down, down, down. So this is some more detail on how it works, and I will just read this and try to make it make more sense. And if it's clear enough, we just move on, yeah? So the gateway load balancer uses the 5-tuple hash to pick a target, and it means that it picks the backend target based on these 5 components: the IP protocol, the source IP address. So these are 5. It's still 5-tuple hash, but essentially it means there are 5 important parts of your traffic that is hashed and it decides where it's going to direct the target of, where it's going to direct your traffic to, what target it's going to pick. So the protocol of your IP, it may be TCP, UDP, I don't know, ICMP, whatever it is, but the protocol of that particular traffic or that particular request, the source IP address, the source port, your destination IP address, and your destination port. This is always included in your particular traffic, or I don't know why I keep saying traffic. I think it's just more general without having to, spend time going into the particular details. But yeah, so it ensures flow stickiness. It will send the packets to the same target for the return traffic as well. So, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You can just keep going. It's the same thing. I don't know if you understand what they're saying here. If you look at the details here, it's sort of reversed in this part. So you're coming in, it picks the target of the endpoint, like using this 5-tuple hash. Sounds cool. And then ensuring flow stickiness in both directions, it returns it in the exact same path it came from. So it uses, now the source is changed to the destination and all that, and it goes back the way it came, basically. Now, okay. Yeah, this is just, this, I never know how to pronounce this stuff. Genevieve? I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm laughing. But yes, it uses this Genevieve header. It encapsulates your IP traffic with this Genevieve header and then forwards it to the appliance. So encapsulating this traffic to the target, your load balancer is able to provide separation and also extra information about which load balancer endpoints the traffic is coming from. And then you can be able to, route it back. This is just extra information. If you're interested in knowing how a load balancer works, you can maybe read this entire page very, very well. But I think we've been able to get to the main points. How the gateway load balancer works, what's important for it to work. I mean, in terms of the 5-tuple hash, how it selects which ones to go and how the traffic returns, and this extra information about, the encapsulation. And yeah, I think that sums it up. We can go. So prerequisites. Okay. We're going to need AWS account. If you don't have an AWS account, it's the right time to create a new AWS account. And I would just either this is AWS Marketplace subscription, and then creating a key pair. This key pair is I don't know if you have ever had to deploy an EC2 instance or something, but by default, maybe you have encountered at that point where you're creating EC2 instance and it asks you that do you want to create a key pair when creating your instance. I'm using this example because I think that's the most AWS environment example to use. So what a key pair is some like cryptographic key that is generated by your server, and you are able to use it to communicate. So it has the public key and the private key. It's a key pair basically, and the private key is kept, and whenever you want to SSH or connect to the instance, you use this particular key pair to what do you call this thing? Perform this. Is it handshake? They call it. Yeah, but it's just a key pair. So there are the requirements, and we can continue with it. I think first thing that I want us to do is actually to create a key pair. I don't have a key pair in this account. I close down everything when I create it. So I'll just go right to it, and this is information on creating a key pair. I'm going to leave it open if you want to. But aside from that, so I know that in the AWS, you won't believe I thought I deleted this stuff. Okay, I didn't delete the second one. Yeah, I'm just gonna delete it. It should have been deleted. Anyway, back to I just want to show you where you can find your key pairs. There's no key pair here, but just create a new one. What do I call it now? I'll just say ACP. But this is where I am. I went to EC2, then I selected key pairs, and I'm now creating a key pair using just .pem. That's the best one to use. Or let me not say the best one. Use whatever you prefer. But I mean with OpenSSH .pem. Create key pair, and that is it. It downloaded it. I have it on my system now. There's that. Back to our requirements. We have the AWS account, AWS Marketplace subscription. I don't have AWS Marketplace subscription for this particular but we'll just continue. I have an AWS account. We don't need to create a new AWS user. We can just continue. We're not using the AWS events because we are doing this from our AWS account, so I'm just going to skip this. Then the AWS Marketplace subscription. We don't need this right now, but we can always set it up whenever we are ready to. It's just teaching you how to subscribe in the AWS Marketplace and all that. We can always figure that out when we're ready to. There are particular services that you want to try deploying here, and it's not free. Like, there are third-party services, as you can see. There's Palo Alto, there's Cisco. Like, these things cost money. They're not so expensive if it's just for a short period, but there's no point for us to be, I don't know, subscribing to that right now. Like, we'll do it when we get there. Okay, then we can continue. The first lab, deploying infrastructure. We're gonna go forward, and the best part, examining the architecture that we're trying to deploy. Okay, it looks interesting, doesn't it? We're gonna come back to it. So this is it. This is the starting and this is the end, I believe. Let me confirm. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna notice the difference. This is the first one. This is where we're starting from. This is our start point, the initial setup we're going to deploy. And I don't know, take a moment to look before I move on. And this is the end goal that we are going to. Do you see something different? I don't know. If you don't see something different, then I don't know what to tell you. Can you see here? There's a gateway load balancer here, some setup here around it. See, yeah. So we are going to be making these changes. That is to be noted. Okay. So, and you also see that this, I mean, we'll get to it. There are like some resources now deployed apart from just the gateway load balancer. Here you see there's some resources now deployed inside here, like the instance, firewall instances, like it's all, yeah, deploying infrastructure. So we're going to continue. Cloud formation. This is the initial setup. In some other labs that we have done, it would refer to the prerequisites section where we deploy CloudFormation template having that initial infrastructure I showed you, and then we continue with it. So we're going to do this so that we don't spend our time redoing everything. I don't want us to download it from, okay, I'm going to copy this. So I'm copying this command to download the files in the Cloud Shell instance. And before I continue, I think I would just copy this link here and drop in the chat, just in case someone wants to jump right to the page that we are at. So this is where we are at here. Yeah. And back to it. So I'm going to run this code to download the CloudFormation template. Yeah, I'm just going to push this. I want to push it to the side so we can split it and work simultaneously. I think last I checked, there shouldn't be Cloud Shell in this environment. I created it too late. Cloud Shell is gone. Aye. Let's see. Close. Oh no, not this one. So I'm in EU Central. That's why you're seeing this. I'm downloading this. Okay. And we're going to unzip it because it's a zip file that was downloaded. So we're going to unzip it and place it inside a folder. Gateway load balancer files. I think this is okay. We're going to move these files into an S3 bucket. I mean, I don't know why this particular one has a lot of steps to get the files. I wish you just gave us a link to download it directly. But I think particularly they are trying to avoid the costs that come with it. And that's something that you consider in your the environment setup. You may be wondering why this is saving them costs instead of giving us links to download it from. You know, the S3, AWS S3, or rather Amazon S3, yeah, that's how they say it. Amazon S3, if that's where they're storing these files centrally for us to be getting it from, for every data sent out of S3, there's a rate that it costs that request. So, or rather, that response is a response, right? Yeah, whatever. Every data that goes out of S3 is charged at a particular rate, and every time people are downloading from the S3 bucket, it's going to be logging a particular amount, like on your account. It's going to, at the end of the month, you get the bill, and you're like, oh wow, there were, I don't know, 1 million downloads or requests from this region in S3. But the way they have set this up, as we're running this in Cloud Shell in the same AWS environment and moving it within AWS, like from the AWS central, I don't know, S3 bucket, they put this stuff into the S3 bucket in the environment that we're in, and then we just launch it from CloudFormation. Everything stays within this environment. So I think it's better for them, I guess. Back to my AWS region. This is what I am going to be. Let me see. Setting the AWS region, and I'm going to put username. This one, you should actually type your username. So you type something that is unique. I'm going to put, what's today's date? 31st May. I'm going to put ACP31. No, I don't want any figures. 3105225. Yeah, this is the name of the username. And then I'm going to create a bucket. It's going to be named what my username is here. And it's going to use the region location constraint AWS S3 API 9. I'm going to put location constraints just in case. I would be repeating that this is not actually a part of the gateway load balancer lab. This is just the initial deployment. Consider it prerequisite part. Okay, it has been created. Let me check the environment to see. Oh, let me check the environment. That's S3. I'm going to S3 to see what. I don't know why this is so. I'll just close it. I'm going to search for S3 and then let's see what buckets we have. So this is the one here. ACP3105 something gateway load balancer lab deployment. But this one. This was what was created by the command we ran just now. Okay. And then we are going to sync the files for the lab from our environment into the bucket. It's just an S3 sync command. And what that does is it makes sure like it synchronizes, like basically make sure that the files are copied, and it makes sure they stay the same. Yes, so we should have some things inside the bucket now. And okay, we have it here. It's got config. Yeah, it's all that. That's cool. We have it set up. We have to go to CloudFormation and we're going to deploy it. There's a particular file that we're going to need to deploy, and we should find it here. It's named gateway balancer. GWLB lab main.yaml. I should give them some feedback on this. Like, I feel the deployment should be a little less complex. But maybe it's just me. So I'm going to come here and search for that particular file. That's what contains our CloudFormation templates that we want to deploy in the CloudFormation environment particularly. The reason why I think they have so many things here apart from just is because if you look in the bucket itself, there is not here, it's supposed to be in the CloudFormation. There is other folders based on the different labs that we're doing, so we'll still have to come back to these buckets like down the line. We're going to CloudFormation. We're going to search for here. There's this. Let me just search for it here. The main one. This one. No. This one. I'm going to copy the URL. Where is it? Copy URL is the URL we're going to deploy. I'm going to go back to CloudFormation. This is CloudWatch. I'll just close all these extra ones that I didn't open. And I'm going to search for CloudFormation here. Oh, I think I saw it just now. No. Yeah, it's here. I'm going to right click and open it in a new tab so that we don't close anything that we have open right now. So CloudFormation, we're deploying a new stack. So create new stack with new resources. That means these resources don't currently exist in our AWS environment. We have the URL we want to deploy. We're going to choose an existing template. And this is an Amazon S3 URL. I'm going to paste it here. Ta-da! Next. Let me see what they want us to name it. So the stack name is this. Balance on stack. And global stack name. These are some parameters that they have already written inside the CloudFormation template code. Some parameters. The time is already 8:41. And I was thinking we'll be done by 9. I'm not sure we'll be able to be done by 9, but get load balancer setup shouldn't be complex. I just hope this deployment doesn't take time. So these are parameters that are in our CloudFormation template. Global stack name, I'm just going to cross check that it is what we want it to be. It's here. The environment type is infrastructure only. So this is different levels of the labs that I guess that you can just choose what you want to deploy in the environment. Maybe we'll get to see. We're just deploying only infrastructure right now, basic, bare, empty. And the bootstrap bucket name, the name of our S3 bucket. I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy, where is it? There's a bucket. I don't have the name. Okay, yeah, here it is. I'm gonna copy this name. This is what we want to put there for the S3 Bootstrap bucket's name. So you should have this. The EC2 key pair. We already created that EC2 key pair, remember? So I'm going to put it here. Yeah. This is down the line, the firewalls that we're going to be working with. Remote management CIDR. So this is currently 0.0. Like this is anywhere you see this network range, it means anywhere in the internet. The entire internet has access. But you can restrict which IP addresses can access the firewall that we're creating by putting in a set of like IP address range here, which I'm not doing. I'm leaving it as anywhere, but just to note that this is not ideal. Okay. VPC sliders, like this is what you want it to be. This is what you want it to be. For us, I think default is fine. Security VPC, VPC1, VPC2, and then we can continue. Palo Alto. So a moment just to discuss Palo Alto. And you may already have networking background for coming here and you're familiar with Palo Alto. But if you just have AWS background and you're trying to, or you just started at AWS and you're really going into this networking workshop with us, if you don't want to go too deep, maybe it's also good to drop it at this point and follow all the AWS ones that the AWS sessions we do later. But this is getting a little deep into networking as I see going down. Palo Alto is a third-party firewall provider. Like, I mean, you can look up Palo Alto. Like, they have their services. You can deploy it in, I don't know, any server. Like, it doesn't have to, it's not an AWS thing. So that's why, you know, we're configuring instance for it to be deployed in and all that. So it's a third-party firewall provider. It's not just firewall, like the security networking stuff. And told us particularly here, don't touch it unless we are deploying environment type Palo Alto. So I'm gonna leave it exactly as is. We're not going to be touching them. We're not going to be touching Fortinet. We're not touching any of these things because we didn't select any of these environment types right now. We're doing the default environment deployment. So I'm leaving it. Next. I'm not putting any tags. This IAM rule, you can leave it as is, but normally I just use, I don't know why I like to use my CDK execution rule. It's not ideal, I would say, because CDK should be used for CDK ABA. I know my CDK rule has all the permissions, so yeah, let's do that. And this is okay. Stack failure options. Default, I always leave it as default, and that will be all. I acknowledge that AWS CloudFormation might create IAM resources with names. I acknowledge that it may require this capability and we can create it. So from what I see here, it's gonna take 10 minutes to deploy. That's quite some time. Let's continue. Let's just rush it and film it. Yeah. It's gonna take some time, apparently, but I want us to finish this first lab at least. I want us to finish this first lab. So the plan is to actually do this first lab that has the gateway load balancer deployment setup and all that, and then we're going to go right back to our original itinerary, which is the advanced topics, gateway load balancing, and the AWS transit gateway. After, if we're going deeper into networking, we would visit the set up with this third party connections and all that. It would be good for us to at least look at them to see how it works with load balancing across this kind of services. And I will see if it doesn't take us too deep into them, because I want to be very mindful of the diverse people that would want to follow this. We don't want to go into networking, because this is just meant to be about gateway load balancing across any kind of AWS third party like service, and not just learning or networking and all of that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna put this. I will wait for this stacks to be done. We can start to look. We can start to look. I think in the image that we saw in the beginning when we were looking at the introduction, let's go look again. I want to see not this one. It's not here. Where was it? Introduction, I think. Architecture overview. Yeah, there were 3 VPCs. While our architecture is deploying, we can take some time to look at it. There are 3 VPCs. There's the security VPC, there's the VPC 1, and there's the VPC 2. And this is what they call this thing, transit gateway. And we can see how it is set up. I mean, it doesn't, of course, look exactly like this per se, but you can see how the connection is set up with the transit gateway table. But this is the VPC we're going to be deploying our gateway load balancer in. And it might be looking like, okay, why do you have a separate VPC for security? There are different architectural setups based on different architectural decisions, based on different business use case scenarios, yeah. But you can try exploring like different account setups, different architecture setups in AWS environment for you to see like how different companies or projects decide to solve their problems. I mean, you can read some of them online where they talk about, okay, so we encountered this problem, or we got to see this problem, we realized that it would be good for us to divert the traffic through the central point and all that. I mean, I was working on a project where we had a separate account. I mean, we had account for the dev environment, the production environment, and I mean the sandbox account separately. But really separating those levels of deployment, and then we had one separate account that we route traffic to, and we also have some other things in that particular account, but it's like this account that's where the main like firewalls, main like everything is deployed like that. You may think, okay, you can set up this firewall in each account and all. Yeah, but sometimes when you compare the cost and all that, and you weigh your interests and all, it makes more sense to divert it some particular way and all. So I'm just giving you, like, there's a lot of reasons and options. I'm not going to say this is the exact particular reason they decided to do this way, but this is a real life kind of situation, or a real life kind of architecture that you can see, or you have a separate VPC that handles the security, and is connected to some other VPCs that handle like the web servers or something, and you need to know how to connect this stuff together. So yeah, you see different architectural layouts. Back to it, let's see if our stack is fully deployed now. No, it is not. it is not. We still have the EC2 stack that is deploying, but at least most of the environment is done. The VPC stack, the IAM stack is done. It should just be the EC2 stack. I think that says continue for me. It says continue. Okay, so this is the security VPC. I went back to that Venn diagram so that we can look at the full picture. But this is the security VPC, and this is what we're trying to deploy. This gateway load balancer here. This gateway load balancer here. As you can see, there's the network interface in this AZ, and another network interface that is in this AZ that is also deployed like when you're setting up the gateway load balancer. And this has to do a lot with your endpoints. It's an interface endpoint, I would believe. Yeah, so let's go. It's still not done. Okay, when it's done, we'll come back and look at it. So first thing, we'll be deploying the gateway load balancer and the target group, and then the firewall instances we would register to the, I'm going to leave that and then we'll continue. I don't know at which point I should probably increase this. I don't think it's visible enough. So we're going to the AWS console. We're going to navigate to the EC2. I want to make this bigger. Yeah, I think I prefer it like this. It's big enough. AWS console. We're going to be in the EC2 instance area. You got EC2 instances. Currently, we have some instances running. I guess that means our still not done. It's probably it's done. All our CloudFormation templates are done deploying. No wonder we have our EC2 instances here. So we have instances in the first VPC and the second VPC also. Okay, we're going to go to load balancer. We're going to create a load balancer for gateway load balancer. This is on the navigation bar, the sidebar. We're going to load balancers and we're going to create a load balancer. I know my diagram doesn't look like the one you see on the side, but it's because of the orientation of my screen. But essentially, it's showing you the different load balancer types. You know, I talked about them a little in the beginning. The application load balancer, network load balancer, and the gateway load balancer. The diagram may already tell you some things about how it operates. I don't know if you can see it. You know, load balancer is here talking about HTTP or HTTPS. Network load balancer is talking about TCP, UDP, TLS. These are different layers. You may have noticed it, but yeah, these are different layers. And the gateway load balancer, we're going to be working with this one. Create. Okay, I won't be going over again how gateway load balancers work, but we'll be following the instruction here to use the exact same values that they use. So the load balancer name is going to be GWLB lab, gateway load balancer lab, hyphen gateway load balancer, GWLB hyphen firewall. That's it. We're using IPv4. Dual stack means IPv4 and IPv6, but we're using only IPv4. Network mapping, we are going to be taking the VPC, which is the security VPC. I remember we said we're deploying it in the security VPC. So these availability zones, we're going to be picking both of them. We're going to pick in both of them. Coming back to this, but we're going to pick in both of them. And ideally, even without this instruction that we're looking at, by looking at the architecture, it's probably not visible enough. You should be able to make the decision looking at this final architecture where it's going to be connected to. You can see that it's connected to this place is also connected to this place. That means you want to have it working across two availability zones. And I mean, it's just, yeah, we'll pick it up as we go. So we are using EU Central 1. I'm in EU Central 1. If you're in a different availability zone, you'll be seeing a different one, but you should have two availability zones here deployed. And we are going to be using the subnets, data subnets. Let's look at it. Is it data? Yeah. The names are not here. Okay, yeah, I see it finally. This one is the data. Is in the name here. Data subnet. We're using the data subnet in both of them. Yeah. Data AZ1 and data AZ2. That's subnet we are using. For the IP listener routing, there is no target group created yet. We need to create a target group. So a target group is where you want your load balancer to direct traffic to. The target group can be different kinds of target group. It can be IP addresses, it can be instances, it can be Lambda function, it can be another load balancer behind it. But the point is you need to define what type of target group, like what kind of targets you're going to be putting inside this group. So we are going to be using instances, I believe. Let me check. Yeah, we're using instances for our target group. We're leaving it as instances. The target group name, let me get it from here. So it's going to follow the same naming pattern with TJ. The protocol is Geneve. I still cannot pronounce this stuff correctly. If I see someone pronouncing, I'm just going to copy them. Either Geneve, whatever you want to call it. But yes, the VPC is going to be security VPC. Yes. Health checks. We leaving it as this TCP. Let's check. Override. We want port 22. Port 22 is the SSH port. So we're leaving these settings as is. And then we'll click next. We don't have any targets in our target group. I mean, it's a group of targets. A target group is a group of targets. We don't have any targets yet. We're leaving it like this, but we've created the target group. And we can come back here. Let's try and refresh it. It's not yet refreshed. Let's refresh again. Why is it not refreshing? Oh no, it's not showing. Did I not create it yet? Oh, do you know I didn't create it? Okay, now it's created. I needed to click that final button after it showed me again. I didn't create it. So now if I refresh, we should see it. Yeah, it's here. Finally. One thing for you to note is that if you didn't select this Geneva protocol when you're creating your gateway load balancer, it's not going to show as when you're creating your target group, it's not going to show in the options of the target group you can select here. So only the ones that have this particular protocol will be eligible to be used with gateway load balancer. It's a requirement. It's not an option. So when you create your gateway load balancer target group and then you are wondering why it's not showing up here, that may be your first reason. That should be your first debugging check. Does this have the right protocol? Is that why it's not showing up here? And we can continue. So we have this. I'm going to create. We have successfully created our gateway load balancer. But the reality is currently we don't have any targets behind it and we're not able to check if it's working or not. But the point is we have created your gateway load balancer. And if everything goes well, this should be a very functional gateway load balancer. gonna go back to setting up the endpoints. Now we've created the gateway load balancer, but we have not yet set up the VPC endpoints that we mentioned in the beginning that is going to be created along with our gateway load balancer and all that. So we are going to go through the sections. You need to create these endpoints for it to work. You have to know that, okay, you need to create these endpoints for it to work. The routines or the route you're going to put in the route table, everything is going to be using this kind of route. So you have to make this a requirement. Gateway load balancer endpoint service. We're going to go to VPC. We're going to go to endpoints. We're going to create it. VPC is here. In our sidebar, the navigation bar on the left here. If you come here, you can scroll down. I think endpoints was somewhere. Endpoint services, yes. Endpoint services. So we're going to create an endpoint services. As you can see, we don't have any endpoint service. So we have to create our endpoint service. The name of our endpoint service, I'm going to copy it from here. We're using the same naming pattern as you can see. Endpoint service is going to be a gateway load balancer. One thing you notice is that the load balancer type, there's only network and gateway options here. Application load balancer works very well with your applications and all, but very limited on the things you can do regarding your networking AWS environment. So just know that it's good for balancing and managing like maybe custom rules and all, but some things you want to do more complex, you come to your network load balancer and all. So we're creating a new load balancer 9. We're not creating, we have a load balancer here. So I'm going to select this one. If you don't see it here, try refreshing, you should see it. You can select this one. The region is now, I only want the region that I'm in, that is EU Central. Yeah, so I'm not going to select any other region. But that is also an option. You can have it cross region now. And this acceptance required, we're going to uncheck it. That means that it's like setting a requirement that like when requests are coming in to your service, through the endpoints must be accepted first and all that. If you're just unchecking it, it will require extra approval. We don't need this for this lab. But when you are using it across accounts, you may want to do that just to make sure that, okay, everything is secure. But we don't need acceptance. That's why we're removing this. And we can create it. The VPC endpoint service name, we're going to need it down the line. Let me just go back. We have it created. It's an interface endpoint. Remember I mentioned that? It's an interface endpoint. This is the endpoint service name down here. Where is it? Here. Don't make the mistake of thinking this first one here is the service name. This is just the name. If you come down here, it's going to be more defined. Or let me just click this so that you get to see it very well. This is the service name here. You have to scroll down to see this is the service name here, as opposed to just, where is it, in that other place where you just see name. That's not the same thing. So you have this. We're going to copy the service name and we're going to use a letter, but I'm going to leave it. I don't need to copy it out of here. We'll just leave this page open somewhere because we can always come to get the service name. But that's it. And now we need to set up the load balancer endpoint for the first VPC. We've created this across two availability zones. but we need to set up the load balancer endpoints for VPC 1, and then I think we still need to set it up for VPC 2 too. Okay, so these are the values that we're going to be using to set it up. These are the values we're going to be using to set it up. Woof. Well, go the same route, go back and create. Yeah, let's go. Los gates. This is it. Okay, VPC back. Let me create the endpoint. Well, I have quite some endpoints here. Which endpoints are these ones? Okay, SSMS tree. This is part of the deployment. Like if you look at the architecture diagram, you see some of this already, like in the diagram there. So we want to create endpoints. Create endpoint. We're going to use this exactly as it is. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it here. And the category, that's the service, the endpoint type, is going to be other endpoint services. And that's this one. This one. Endpoint services that use NLBs and gateway load balancers. The way they wrote it here is not very up to date, but this is what you want to select. Endpoint services that use NLBs and gateway load balancers. That's what we created, an endpoint service. Yeah. So the service settings, we're going to use the service name, not this one. Sorry, not this one. The service name from our VPC endpoint service that we created. So we're going to have to open it. Let me just check it from here. Endpoint service is just here. So endpoint service, this one, we need the service name. Scroll down, copy it, go back, paste it. We're good to go. Verify service, service name verified. That means all is good. All is good. And the VPC is our gateway load balancer VPC1. Remember, we're setting this up for VPC1. We're going to the subnets. Subnet A. Let's scroll down. Firewall, we're going for the firewall subnet. Remember, the firewall subnet, we're not going to be designating IP address. It's going to automatically assign the IP address. If in a situation where you have the exact IP address you want to use in that environment, you have to designate it, but we're not doing that. And across we're using AZA only. IPv4, we're going to create the endpoints. We didn't add any other thing. Create endpoint. For reference, I wanted us to look at this again. This is what we are setting up. This is what we're setting up, just for reference. Okay. Back to this. Now this is the second endpoint in the same VPC. So I'm going to create another endpoint. This is going to end with 1B. The other one ended with 1A. So the type is also going to be endpoint services that use NLBs. I know what they wrote here it's not current, but yeah, this is what it is. The service name is what we copied that we're going to paste. So from our service name here, we already have that gateway load balancer and endpoint service. So we're going to use the same one, and you verify the service, it's correct. VPC is VPC1, still VPC1, but we're using another subnet, like in the second availability zone. So when we come here, we're picking this one, EU Central 1B, and we're picking the firewall subnet still. Make sure it's a firewall subnet you select. Yeah. And I'm leaving everything else as is. I create this endpoint. So we should have 2 endpoints. No, let me remove this. I want to filter only by gateway balancer endpoints. Yeah, we should have 2 endpoints now for VPC1, endpoint A, endpoint 1A and endpoint 1B. And these are just images for you to verify that you have what you have wanted to create. And this is what it looks like. This is what we have created now that works. These endpoints are what we created. Can you see them? That's what we just created. Gateway load balancer endpoint A and gateway load balancer endpoint B. And we can continue. So we need load balancer endpoints also for our security VPC. We just did for our VPC1. Now we want to do it for our VPC, security VPC. This is what I want to show you. So we created this gateway load balancer that has this and then we have the gateway load balancer service, this gateway load balancer endpoint service that has this network interfaces in this VPC subnets. We created this gateway load balancer endpoint in the VPC1, these 2 here. Then we created, or rather we are about to create, these gateway load balancer endpoints in the security VPC. They don't exist yet, so we're going to create them. You need the gateway load balancer endpoints created for it to use the load balancer's endpoint service that we created. So we're going to create that now, and following the same steps that we did just now, I'm going to create endpoints. I'm using the same name, but the only change here is that this is having security VPC instead of VPC1, and we're creating them the exact same way. VPC endpoint. Just so you know, an endpoint service is not the same as an endpoint. We created one endpoint service in the beginning, and now we are creating our third endpoint, which is an interface kind of endpoint anyway. But I'm creating this endpoint, and the service settings, we're using the same service name from here. It's using the same service. All of them, all the endpoints are using the same service. What we're trying to do is that these endpoints are able to connect to that gateway load balancer service through that endpoint service without going through the public internet. So here we are. Select the VPC, we're using the security VPC. Okay, we're using only the easy one. Am I using the gateway load balancer and this one? That's the subnet we're using. GWLB easy one. And then we create it. Just to check everything. Yeah, create this one. Then we create the second one also. We create another endpoint. We use the same name of security VPC, but it ends with 1B now. So when we create this, we're able to continue. Let me just copy this service name. Verify the service, making sure we don't have any issues there. And we're using security VPC, same thing, but now we're using the second availability zone. I'm selecting gateway load balancer, endpoints easy. We're creating this. Yeah, and we have now two endpoints, two VPC endpoints in VPC 1, two VPC endpoints in VPC security VPC. That's one each in each availability zone. And I think now we are done with this. We can continue. Yeah, this is what we just created. These two. We have our VPC endpoints. We don't need to. This VPC endpoint ID, we can always get them from this page. I won't just copy it somewhere random. But it's important for you to always have somewhere you document all these things in your project. You can have an internal, like a wiki page or something where you document your network decisions, resources, or values. I'm saying this particularly because it's usually an issue down the line, especially as the project grows older and it gets bigger, more people join it, people leave the project and all that. A lot of questions start coming in. What are the IP addresses in this particular subnet? What's the CIDR range for this? And then you have to keep going back to, because there's no documentation on it. Networking is one area that people don't spend enough time documenting. I get very, I don't know, antsy when I see a lot of people just doing things in networking and all, because it's like, oh, it's just networking, but they're not documenting it. So yeah, configuring route tables. It's not okay to just configure the VPC endpoints. If you were with us before, we've configured VPC endpoints for S3 before. I think we also configured for another service. I'm not sure, I remember it off the top of my head. But when you configure these endpoints, you still need to tell your VPC, or rather the resources in your VPC, how to find it. Like, okay, whenever you have requests in this IP address range or this particular set of prefix values, direct it to this endpoint. That's how they use the endpoint. If not, it's still going to be going through the normal traffic route. So you have to edit your routes. Create endpoints, make sure you edit your routes. I think a lot of times there's some that when they create the endpoint, automatically updates, but I mean, you should modify your endpoints to point appropriately. Sorry, your routes to point appropriately to your endpoints. Okay, so we added endpoints to VPC1, and we also added endpoints to VPC security VPC. I don't know why I call it VPC security VPC, but yeah, to these two VPCs, and we must configure the routes for these VPCs. The configurations will not be exactly the same, so we're going to make sure we check them very well to make sure we're putting the right routes in the route tables. Now we're gonna go straight into, I mean, these are tables around it, yeah. So configuring the routing tables. We're gonna go back to VPC. VPC, here we can filter by VPC to check some things for particular VPCs. The first one we're selecting is the VPC1. So everything we're looking at is only in VPC1. These are all the information we're going to need. Okay, let's go. We're going to the route table. Which route tables do we have here? Let's see. we're going to the public A row table. Each of the row tables, going to be editing it. So we see there's already an entry for one VPC endpoint. I think this would have to do with the other ones already there, maybe SSM or S3 or something. But we need to edit the route. And we're going to add a rule there. Where's it? We're going to add a route there. The destination is going to be 0.000, and the target is going to be gateway load balancer endpoint. Where is it? Then select. I need to paste it. So let me see. Yeah, let me copy it. You know, we were meant to copy the endpoints IDs anyway, so I'm just going to open it here so that we'll be taking it as we need it. Gateway load balancer VPC 1 endpoint, this one. Okay, I'm going to copy it. We need the endpoint ID, so that's what I'm going to put here. This, and I'm going to save changes. The VPC endpoint ID, it does exist. Let me go back and make sure I have it correct. Gateway load balancer endpoints, yes. Endpoint 1A. This is the endpoint ID. And which VPC is this in? Yeah, this is VPC 1. This is VPC 1. Oh god, I clicked the wrong thing. Route 1, route 2, okay, route 3. No, I wanted to add the route, yeah. So for 0.0, I want to target it to. Oh, let me just remove this. Since we are going to remove this one anyway, I'll just change it to gateway load balancer endpoints and put this one. Why is it saying this endpoint does not exist? Because it does. I mean, we can see it. Let me go back to check it. The endpoints. I seriously. I was checking. Oh no, it's the correct one. I hope I have it in the correct in the correct VPC. Yeah, it's in the correct VPC. I don't know why it's doing this to me right now when I need to drop off. But let's go one more time. The gateway load balancer lab, yes. This is the VPC we are editing. VPC 1, and we are editing the row table. Yes, public A row table. This is the row table ID. I'm editing the routes. I want to change this one. I want to have our route not go to the internet gateway, but to go to our gateway load balancer. And when I edit the routes, I don't know what it's telling me that it doesn't exist when it in fact does. I'm going to try again, and this time around I'm going to check. Maybe there's a possibility that why is it not bringing out the options for me? Why is it not bringing out? This is crazy. Preview. Yes, it's meant to add it as a target. Oh, this is so ridiculous. The VPC endpoint ID does not exist. I'm just going to log back in and log out and log back in because AWS is trying to test my patience this evening. Ein Moment, bitte. I don't know why it's saying this. I'm just going to go with the console.aws. Let's go again. We go again. Root tables. We're going to VPC 1 public root table. We're gonna edit it. And this time it better work. I mean, I'm saying it better work as if I have something I'm going to do to it. But yeah, it's still not bringing out the options. I have a very bad feeling about it working. I'll just refresh this and see. I'm filtering right now by VPC 1, so we see only things that are in VPC 1. Yeah, and these are all in VPC 1. So VPC 1 endpoint A. This is the endpoint ID. Just gonna copy it and yeah, it's correct. Why is it not working? The VPC endpoint ID does not exist. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna try for another one just to try and isolate whatever the issue is. Okay, I'm gonna go back. There's a lot that I'm meant to edit. That's why it's so annoying that this one is still giving these issues. I'll go to the VPC public B route table. Route tables. Let's go with the VPC 1. Let me just filter to make it easier. VPC 1 public B route table. I'm editing this and going to be editing the routes. Now this one, I'm going to make it get weighted balancer endpoint. Ideally, I should even be seeing the drop down here, but it's not. Okay. Still the same. Yeah. So the firewall subnet. Network interface. Yeah. I feel it's in the right subnets. Okay. I think instead of taking more of our time, I just want to confirm one more time which subnet it was meant to be in, because yeah, it was meant to be in the firewall subnets and also in the firewall subnets. Yeah. I'm gonna try adding it to the route table in, but it's there. I just went to check this one last time. Subnet association and it's public subnets. Okay. I removed the route for the internet gateway. Let's try again. Not this. Where is the value here again? Okay. The targets, we're going to use the gateway load balancer endpoint. This is what it's meant to be. Let me cross check that this is correct. Yeah, it is correct. I can see here. We have the endpoint ID. I'll just maybe. What is the endpoint ID I'm supposed to put there actually? Yeah, right now, yeah, this is driving me crazy. But I think we should definitely drop off now. The reason why these routes are not being added, or rather I think it does not exist, I will try and find it. I don't see why this should actually be an issue, but I'll look into the error around adding the endpoints to the root, because yeah, I really. Oh wait, let me see what kind of endpoints. Yeah, it is. It is an. So it is an endpoint. Let me see endpoints. Yeah. I think it definitely has to do with the changes that have happened in the meantime with the instructions that we were following and the being like more recent or not. But I will check and I will definitely get back to you on that. Thank you for joining us today. Sorry for taking your time to this. It's usually 1 hour, or I think now I should say it's usually 1 hour 30 minutes, because sometimes we go up to 2 hours just to try and finish the session that we're having. But I wish you a nice evening or a nice morning wherever you are. But yeah, have a nice time. Bye bye. Thank you.